So we have the full moon in Sagittarius happening on July 3rd, 2012 at around noon time Pacific. Now this is also Guru Purnima, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Guru Purnima and what we have with this full moon in Sagittarius. Now Guru Purnima is literally, it means full moon of the Guru. Guru is also literally the name of Jupiter, the planet Jupiter. These things aren't separate. We tend to separate things. Oh, Guru is also the name of Jupiter. Jupiter is also called Guru. And we have a Guru, a teacher, and like it's all sort of different stuff. It's not different stuff. Everything emanates from the planets. The grahas, the planets, are what form everything. They're what make everything. That's why they're revered as deities, as gods. Gods are just what create things. Like if you create a short story, let's say that you write it, you're sort of like the god of that thing. You created it. You're the creator of it. You're like a god of that thing. The planets are what create everything. The sun and the moon are what create life on Earth, obviously, but you know, without the sun there's no warmth, and there's no life on Earth without the sun and the moon. But also the other planets as well. They all create things. They're not just big rocks up there doing stuff to us down here. There's not just this archetype thing, like we turn everything into some intellectual, humanistic, relativistic thing in the West, like everything is an archetype or refers to something that human beings do or think of. It's not. In the East, they're also known and revered as grahas or deities or gods that have created the stuff. They actually made everything here. So everything here on Earth comes from the grahas, the planets. So Guru is not just a teacher outside and, oh, that also happens to be the name of Jupiter. Jupiter, the planet, the graha, not just the big rock in the sky, but that's the way Jupiter looks. But the energy, the force, the power of Jupiter is what creates Guru, or things that teach us in life, the great lessons in life. As such, it also creates children, but of course children are great teachers, and things that inspire us and give us a sense of purpose, meaning, and hope. That's what our gurus do, our teachers do. They inspire us and they give us a sense of meaning and a higher truth in life, a higher purpose. The sense of meaning and purpose comes from Jupiter, and it comes in the form of gurus, which are teachers, things like children, but more importantly and more specifically, what those things do in us is connect us to our heart's desire, the things we love the most, gives us this uplifting, hopeful approach to life. Children, for instance, are hardwired to be the thing we love the most. If you have a child, you're going to love that thing the most, and it's going to give you a sense of meaning, purpose, and hope. This is why a lot of people have children, because it gives them a higher purpose. Automatically, it's sort of hardwired into our genes. That doesn't mean if you don't have a child, you don't have a higher purpose, because many people don't need a child in order to give them that sense of purpose, or want it, or whatever. There's no judgment here. It's just how our karmas work out. But it's all related to Jupiter and the sense of creative joy in life. That's really what Jupiter is, the joy of life as a creative force, as the sense of meaning and purpose that comes from the things you love and how creative that is. Like an artist lives to create art. That's their meaning. That's their sense of purpose. We all want to know, why are we here? Not only why is existence here, which is the bigger overarching question, but why am I here individually? What am I here to create and to contribute? Whatever that is gives us a sense of meaning, purpose, and hope. And if we don't have that, or if we don't know what it is, our life lacks meaning, purpose, and hope. And as I said, many people don't really know what's their bigger purpose. So having a child, boom, right away that's a bigger purpose. And then what happens often is once the children grow up and don't need them anymore, well, now what's my purpose? That was it before, now what is it? Well, then people start to look to things like religion. Very much a Jupiter thing. religion, and our belief systems, our philosophies. This is all Jupiter stuff. Now, often astrologers get really lazy and they say Jupiter, spirituality. Well, that's not really the case. All the planets are spirituality. All the planets have a quality of spirituality to them. Mars is the spirituality of being disciplined and doing the right thing. Mercury is the spirituality of discrimination. The Sun is the spirituality of confidence and individual power. The Moon is the spiritual quality of receptivity and selfless love. For instance, Saturn is the spirituality of letting go of things and making peace with changes and being mature. All the planets are spiritual. The spirituality of Jupiter is, like I just said, religion, belief, hope, sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, ritual, those things that connect us to the higher purpose. It's very important in spiritual growth to believe in something, to have belief. But we all have some philosophy that we believe in. Jupiter is no more spiritual necessarily than the other planets, though, frankly, because we can believe in something that's not very spiritual at all, for instance. We can believe that, you know, since everybody screwed me, I should screw them and get as much money as I can, and that's it. That could be our belief system. That could be our philosophy. Really, this is the way to look at Jupiter, these higher principles, these philosophies. Hopefully, he's well-oriented in our chart, for instance, and we have a good teacher, a good guru, a good belief system, and the things we create and that give us a sense of meaning and hope are actually uplifting. But that's not always a given. So again, we have to be careful, as certainly astrologers tend to do this, and they tend to go crazy over this idea. Oh, Jupiter, that's spiritual, that's good. That's one of the good ones. You're going to have good. It's not necessarily going to be good. You could have a very bad philosophy, and people who are not spiritual, quote, or who are not seeking a higher sense of meaning and purpose, you see it in their Jupiter too. They also have Jupiter, but Jupiter gives them a philosophy that's based more on, for instance, materiality or greed, or I want everything for myself, or whatever. So these things are all relative. As it relates to Guru Purnima, and the reason I'm talking about Jupiter so much and giving a kind of little mini astrology lesson is because it's really important to understand these things and to know that everything comes from the planets, the grahas, are the deities that create everything here on Earth and our world of karma. It's not insignificant. And even though we might get into a kind of non-dualism about it, which says, well, but we're the self, so we can rise above our astrology and all these things that people say, we can rise above our astrology, but that comes at a very high level. When you're not affected by your karma, then you've risen above your astrology. But until then, we're playing with that deck. We're playing with the deck of karma and our attractions and aversions and the things we like, the things we don't like, the things we want, the things we don't want. When you're playing with that deck, the planets are the gods that create all of that. And we usually want to be on the more intelligent end of that. And the intelligent end of that is not bypassing it by saying, well, but we're the soul anyway, so who cares about that? We can just rise above our astrology. That's a spiritual bypassing sort of thing. That kind of non-dualism comes at a very high level of growth, but until then, it's best to see the grahas and the planets as the agents of intelligence and wisdom that are embedded into all of our actions, because that's really the way it works. And you know, it's like looking at the seed and saying it's a tree, right? It's not a tree. It's a seed. It can become a tree with a lot of care, and if we do the right things with it, which we would call sadhana on the spiritual path turns the seed into a tree. But to look at the seed and say it's a tree, and to like bypass all the work, is kind of what people do when they relegate astrology to something that's below their spiritual practice, or, well, I don't need astrology, I have this spiritual thing, or whatever. I'm not saying everybody needs astrology, but to misunderstand it that way is to make a big mistake. It's like saying, oh, I don't need to do any work, I'm already the tree. We already proclaim ourselves to be the tree because we believe in that information. We believe that we are the non-dual substratum Paramatman Supreme Self on a very high level, which Okay, I believe it too, but believing that as a way to circumvent all the work is like saying, oh, I'm already the tree, I'm not the seed. We have the seed potential, we have the tree potential in the seed, but until you've become enlightened, and until you've actually risen above your karma, like a great being, like a Mahatma has, you're playing with this deck of karma. And again, this is why, the reason I'm talking about this is because Guru Purnima is a time to be embedded in these teachings. All these teachings. It's a time to honor our teachers, honor our teachings, honor the wisdom of the universe. Just because we have a Satguru, or any kind of guru, any kind of teacher, let's just say a Satguru, because they're the ones that embody the spiritual perfection that we aspire to also embody, doesn't mean that we've really done anything except recognize that this is a spiritual being. The spiritual beings compel us to work. They don't take away the work. They don't say, okay, now you don't have to do any work. Anyone who's ever been around a Mahatma or a great being, a great spiritual being, realizes this is the time, or what they compel us to do is actually be responsible for our own self as the Supreme Being, as the Supreme Self. What typically happens is we want to say, oh yeah, I'm the Supreme Self, I'm there, so why do anything? And it's exactly the opposite. The Supreme Being says, or the great teachers say, you're the Supreme Self, so start acting like it. Start being compassionate. And here are the techniques to do it. Because they do it. They embody it. They model it for us. And they're very compassionate. They don't say start acting like it. That's kind of me. That's my spin. But they basically say it, but they say it in a very nice way. They say, you're the Supreme Self. You're the Paramatman. I bow down to the divinity in you. That doesn't mean it's actualized. It doesn't mean we're realized. They're realized. We're trying to be realized. We're trying to realize the divinity in us because that's the tree in the seed within us. For us, though, that Paramatman, that Supreme Self, that enlightenment is still in seed form until we've turned it into the tree. So we're somewhere along the line of that potential. We're not still a seed. The sprout has busted through the seed casing and it's starting to grow. It's above the surface, especially if we have a Satguru, but it's in some form. It's like a sprout of some sort, and the Satguru is trying to turn us into the mighty tree, into the mighty oak that is not at the mercy of every situation all the time. Like the little twig is still very given to the elements. Something can come along and knock it down at any moment. So they try to make us strong and give us the spiritual practices to be like them. And so Guru Purnima, the full moon, it usually happens in Sagittarius during this age, with the sun in Gemini and the moon in Sagittarius. It's important because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, is ruled by Guru. So most of the time Guru Purnima happens with the full moon in Sagittarius. Sometimes it's in Capricorn, but it's usually in Sagittarius. I think something like 8 out of the last 12 have been in Sagittarius. And the sun is in Gemini. This Gemini-Sagittarius axis is very important in our spiritual growth. It's where the plane of the galaxy runs, which is the sacred spot in all spiritual traditions. The Mayans, the Christians, the Egyptians all talked about this section of the zodiac. And so the sun in Gemini is about our own intelligence, our own path, our own embedded wisdom, actually, and our truthful intelligence and gathering information and being curious about life through the mind. So that's a lot of what's happening right now with the sun in Gemini, the Gemini cycle. And then the moon in Sagittarius is that point of contrast that connects our individual intelligence with the bigger picture, with the Sagittarius picture, which is that belief, that hope. And it's at this time that we can recognize the teachings of the Guru more than at any other time. Guru Purnima, the full moon. in Ashada. And this is a time when our mind is most susceptible to seeing the truth, or most receptive. Susceptible actually sounds like we're kind of being impressed upon. It's actually also it's also a correct word, but I think receptive to it is a better way to look at it. We're most receptive to getting the teachings and getting what the guru is all about. If you have a Sadguru, or you have a teacher that is leading you to any kind of truth, whoever your greatest teacher is in life, you want to do your best to imbibe those teachings on that day. On July 3rd, 2012 at around 11:50 a.m. Pacific time. That's the culmination. But actually, July 2nd, from that evening till the middle of July 3rd, is when the Purnima happens. Purnima officially ends on July 3rd. I'll give you the minute. With Krishna Patipad at 11:51 a.m. Pacific time. So Guru Purnima officially ends, that would be 2:51 p.m. Eastern time, with Krishna Patipad, the first lunar day, on July 3rd. But July 2nd, the afternoon into halfway through July 3rd, is a time to really imbibe your teachings, because you will feel that harmonizing between your intellect, your curiosity of life, which is Gemini, and the emotional connection to the bigger picture, which is the moon in Sagittarius. This is why Mercury and Jupiter are crucial in metaphysical study. A connection between Mercury and Jupiter are necessary, because Mercury is all the details of life. It's our curiosity, our desire to understand the world. It's very important. The intellect, to intellectually understand the world, to be intelligent about life, to use the faculties of discrimination, to separate fact from fiction, truth from falsity. And that doesn't just mean that 2 + 2 = 4 and not 5. It means the truth of life, the truth of our own mistakes, the truth of what's really happening here on Earth. The culmination of Gemini is that. The willingness to challenge our own beliefs and tip over our own sacred cows is the Gemini cycle. I've blogged and commented and done extensive commentary on this in the last, few weeks since we had the Gemini cycle. I did a webinar on this, a web class on the Gemini archetype, because it's so important in every culture. It's so important in humanity that we are willing to use our discrimination and use the powers of our mind to understand the nature of reality, to be flexible, curious, playful. This is also big Gemini stuff. We take things too damn seriously when we're attached and fearful. So Gemini is very important. That's why the sun is in Gemini, but then the moon is in Sagittarius. The sun is the power of consciousness and illumination. We're looking to illuminate and understand these things right now. This is the cycle. Everybody makes a big deal about the full moon because it looks prettier and stuff, and it is. It's beautiful. But the full moon is a halfway point in the cycle. The sun is what is central to every full moon cycle. We're in the cycle of the sun at that time. The sun is what comes and empowers and illuminates that life lesson at that time each year. The sun moves into Gemini. We're in the Gemini cycle. Even though we have the full moon and it's in Sagittarius, it's part of the Gemini cycle. It's providing the contrast to Gemini, which is, I want to understand the world. Then the moon comes in contrast and says, you need to understand and anchor that understanding in the heart of inspiration and purpose and meaning, which is the Sagittarius lesson. Gemini is a very childlike energy, very much childlike in the good way, in the curious child, like the child wants to understand everything. Then we become an adult and think we got it all figured out already. We stop being curious. We stop exercising beginner's mind and saying, what is this about? Like a child wants to know everything. That's the beauty of Gemini. That's the cycle we're in. But the problem of Gemini is it can just be mindless information gathering, stimulation, and trivia. This is why the contrast of the full moon, the contrasting point of Gemini, the integrating principle is Sagittarius. To really integrate any energy, we have to integrate its opposite. The opposite of Gemini is Sagittarius, which is hope, belief. In fact, it's unquestioned belief. And again, unquestioned belief is what Gemini is trying to probe into. However, that probing mind of Gemini to understand things, even those things we're not supposed to question, needs to be contrasted with a deeper meaning and a deeper purpose and a sense of hope that comes from this higher purpose. And so every full moon has this contrasting point. I go through this every month in my member site in extensive detail, not just generally, but with each of the 12 zodiac signs and how it's going to affect them, like how it would affect an Aries or a Cancer or a Taurus. So Guru Purnima is the day when we really get the Guru's teachings. The reason we have a Guru is because of the Gemini principle. I mean a Sadguru, I mean where we're really trying to understand the nature of life. It actually comes more from Gemini even than Sagittarius. Sagittarius is just religion. It's just belief. Strong Sagittarius in a person will just be religious. There's nothing wrong with that. Often if people have a lot of planets in the Sagittarius end, they'll just believe in the religion they were taught. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what Jupiter is. It's belief, like I said at the beginning. But to challenge that belief and to uncover a deeper meaning and purpose in life, you need the Gemini axis, or at least the Mercury axis. Usually Gemini Sagittarius is where this happens. Pisces Virgo also, but Gemini Sagittarius is really where it happens because Gemini is where we want to understand things intellectually. So this is the seed principle of Guru Purnima, and this is why it's so important. The full moon, we're full of that feeling. So this is going to be a very powerful Guru Purnima on the evening of July 2nd and up until noon, July 3rd Pacific time. And so a lot of other things are going on with this Guru Purnima. Venus just turned direct, so we have a very powerful Venus Jupiter Ketu in Taurus. Now, I talked about Jupiter at the very beginning. One of the main things about this Guru Purnima is Jupiter is very close to Ketu, the south node. Look, exact conjunction. And they're in Taurus and joined Venus, which is also very close, only a few degrees away, less than 4 degrees away. So this is the big issue between our personal happiness that relates to family and resources and pleasures, which is the Venus and Taurus principle, and the things we want to gather and hold and love and enjoy, and Jupiter stuff, which is the big meaning, the big purpose, the big principle that I talked about. Venus and Jupiter have this kind of tension because Jupiter is about the higher teachings of the world, making peace with the larger themes of life, and Venus is about enjoying things right now, and the people we love and the things we love and the contentment and peace we want to get from the things we love and enjoy. And there's a struggle right now between Venus and Jupiter in those things, but there's also a great potential to be at peace over them because Venus is there. Venus is the ruler. So rather it being such a source of struggle and tension right now, the contrast between those things, for instance, like having a romantic partner that doesn't feel like they share your values and principles and sense of purpose. There's more peace and contentment around this conflict right now, but it's there. There's a lot of probing into it because Ketu is there. Ketu says, I want this to be perfect. So we're really trying to perfect our teachings right now. We're really trying to perfect our relationship to our gurus and our teachers, and we're really trying to extrapolate the pure juice from it. So along the way, you might be really criticizing yourself. You might be criticizing your guru and your teachers, and really challenging that relationship and saying, is this really what I need? Am I really a fit disciple? Are they really a fit guru? Because Ketu is only interested in perfection. So you're really trying to be a perfectionist now, and it's good, but be careful and be easy on yourself, and don't be too critical of your teacher or yourself as a disciple or as one who is aspiring to be all that you can be. However, if your teachers are not stepping up, this is also a time when you can notice it, and you may actually leave, and justifiably. But make sure you're not being indiscriminate about it. We also have this Mars-Saturn conjunction in Virgo, which is also about really drilling down into the details of things and how they work. Virgo is about habits and routines and daily practical efforts and methods in our life. So it's really good for your spiritual sadhana and your spiritual practices. Virgo is about implementation. So Mars-Saturn tends to want to destroy the weaknesses because they're both tamasic planets, and they share this agenda of making us tough and strong. The willingness to let go of things that we don't need anymore is Saturn, and the willingness to destroy those things making us weak is Mars. Both of them share the agenda of the willingness to suffer for our principles. They're both tamasic, which means they're not interested in how good we feel or whether we like it or not. They do it because it needs to be done, and because to not do it can be dangerous. If we don't destroy what's making us weak, it could destroy us. This is Mars. If we don't let go of what's dragging us down and what could be dangerous, then that could really harm us. That's Saturn. So these things, wherever the sign of Virgo falls in your chart, that's where this would happen. Wherever the sign of Taurus falls in your chart, that's where the issues with Jupiter, Venus, and Ketu are happening. So everything is related to the individual based on your chart. But this is an overview of Guru Purnima and the energies and why it's so important. And I'm now going to assess each of the 12 zodiac signs, including yours. So for those who are my gold members, you can hear this described as it relates to your astrology sign. And if you're not, you should take me up on my offer and get a free 2 weeks for only 1 penny, and you'll also get to hear the forecast for your sign.